On behalf of TPM, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar on the revolutionary Leica BLK360 and the Autodesk Recap Pro mobile app to control and process the scans. In order to make today's webinar flow well, I have extensively used video and chopped out sections of the real-time scanning process so we can cover the entire process of collecting scans and putting them together, but in a much shorter period of time than it would happen in real time. As you can tell by this picture, the Leica BLK360 is a small, lightweight, easy to transport, but rugged scanner, and we will be controlling it through Wi-Fi connection and an iPad Pro using the Recap Pro app. So let's take a look at some of the specifications of the BLK360. We have 3 resolution settings available to us on the BLK360. The best way to understand resolution is to think of it as a grid on the wall 33 feet away. The spacing of that grid is determined by the resolution. At low, it's 0.8 inches apart. At medium, 0.4 inches apart. And at high, 0.25 inches apart. Accuracy in the BLK360 at 33 feet is 1/4 of an inch. At 66 feet, it's 1/3 of an inch. Certainly within the tolerance of most people's needs. The range of the scanner is from 2 feet to 200 feet. The BLK features a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that is easily removable and swappable. The battery lasts approximately 40 scans. The BLK's onboard memory will store up to 100 scans. But when it's connected to the iPad Pro, the limit is based on the amount of memory on your tablet. Even with its rugged aluminum housing, the BLK360 weighs only 2.2 pounds. It's 4 inches in diameter and a 6.5 inch height. It is very easy to transport around the job site, to move from scan to scan, and for that matter, very easy to transport with you, whether you be going through an airport or any other form of transportation. The operating temperature is 41 degrees to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's talk a little bit about the iPad mobile app. It uses a Wi-Fi signal from the BLK360, so it acts like a hotspot, to connect to the tablet and allow the tablet to control both scanning and registration. The real-time registration allows you to be confident that you have all the scans you need before leaving the job site. The requirements for the mobile app are primarily an iPad Pro. Now, it doesn't have to be the latest version of the Pro, but an iPad Pro. It's recommended that you get 256 gigabytes or larger. The one I'm using is 512 gig. You do need iOS 10 or higher, and like a whole lot of Apple devices, iTunes is required both on the pad and on the desktop computer that you'll be doing recap for the desktop on. So let's get started scanning. Now we're over on the iPad Pro. The first thing we need to do is go to Recap Pro. We need to do this before we connect to the BLK360 in case we have to log in to Recap Pro. Once we're successfully got in the Recap Pro program, let's switch over to Settings on the iPad. Once in Settings on the iPad, we're going to change the Wi-Fi connection to the BLK360. Once connected, let's go back to Recap Pro. Now in Recap Pro, I've already got a project set up, so I'm going to select that project. Now, down at the bottom, we can control some of the settings and also the storage on the Leica. Right now I've clicked on storage, and as you can see, there's no files out there. So I have deleted all the scans that were out on the Leica. Now we're going to go into settings. This is where you're going to set your scan density, either low, medium, or high. For this example, we're going to use medium. Another setting in here that's common to use is HDR. Now, whether you need to use this or not is going to depend on the amount of light in your scans and the variation between light and dark in those scans. Now for these scans, I'm going to go back into settings and turn HDR off, as I don't think it will be necessary. I'm going to superimpose a clock down on the bottom, so as I start this scan, we're going to have a real-time clock running in this process. That way you can get a really good idea of the amount of time that is necessary for this process to take place. And we won't have to sit there and wait for that little teeny green thing to cross the screen. So we're going to jump forward to the next process that will take place. Now when the scanning portion ends, the next process is transferring the scan to the iPad. At the end of the transferring process, it will process the scan. It's now processing the scan. At the end of the processing stage, it will now flip back and be ready for us to start a new scan. During the transfer and processing stage, you can move the scanner to the next position. So you'll be ready to hit New Scan and start the second scan. Now when we started the second scan, the timer was at about 4 minutes and 12 seconds. So that's how long it took to complete the first scan. Now remember, the settings we have were medium and no HDR. Later I'll talk about how much time it would add to the scans if we were to make it high and or HDR. Moving forward, to better understand registration, let's take a look at some of the terms that Recap Pro uses. Overlap is the percentage of common features throughout the project. Now because scanning is a line-of-sight technology, objects can be obscured when you're scanning from a single position. But putting together all the scans, provided there's enough overlap, should fill in the gaps that were not recorded by the previous scan. My rule of thumb on overlap is 30% or greater. Balance shows the percentage of common features in the scan. A good balance value allows scans to correctly register with each other. A balance value greater than 20% is what you should be shooting for. Points less than 6 millimeters apart shows you the percentage of overlap of points within 6 millimeters of each other. This value should be greater than 90%. At the end of the second scan, a confirm registration results window comes up. As you can see, our overlap was 56%, balance 60%, points under 6 millimeters 99%. We press merge scans and continue. Moving forward. At the end of our next scan, the registration window pops up once again. We'll look at our results, and then we will accept Merge Scan. Now the diagram actually helps you know where your overlap was and kind of gives you a feel for did you get enough, and of course the numbers themselves tell you that as well. So let's move forward in time again. At the end of our next scan, we continue to look at the registration results and make sure that we've got good results before moving forward. Moving forward in time, at the end of our next scan, we once again confirm our results, and all of our numbers are looking very good at this point in time. Moving on. Once again, at the end of this scan, our registration window is going to come up, and we're going to confirm we have a good registration. Now, I don't know how well you can see from the diagram there, but our last scan, which is that last circle there, was actually in a doorway. If you're transitioning from one room to the next room, it's always a good idea to set up a scan dead in the middle of the door so that it can capture common information inside both rooms and therefore be able to sketch the two together. Now we're coming to the end of our last scan. And as you can see, once again, our registration numbers are very good. Now we're at the approximately 34-minute mark, and we have basically completed what's to be done on the iPad. Now it's time to switch over to our desktop app. Now the first thing on the desktop, you need to make sure that iTunes is running. So when we get out of the iPad here and switch over to our desktop, we'll have iTunes running. Then we're going to start up Recap Pro. Now in Recap Pro, we're going to have a transfer process that we're going to go through. So we're going to click on New Project, and we're going to transfer from mobile device. Now we'll look at whatever projects that are out there, and we'll choose one and proceed. And now it is actually downloading from the iPad to the PC. Remember, we're plugged in an accorded connection and downloading all of that information into your PC. So we're going to skip forward again in time. At the end of the transfer process, it's going to switch into a mode where it is loading the registration results from our registration done on the iPad into Recap Pro here on the PC. So while that's doing it, we're going to move forward again in time. At the end of it loading our registrations, we can click on the registration button and look at the overall registrations that is loaded. Now I've blown up that area of the screen, and you can see all of our numbers look really good for these scans. Now down at the bottom, this is the target area. If we were using targets for these scans, we would have to go in there and align our targets. For those of you who are interested in more information on aligning scans with targets, we'll be doing one of our 4-Minute Fridays in the near future on that topic. The last process we're going to be doing is called indexing the scans. Now the button I actually pushed is underneath the timer, so you couldn't see me do that. But this is the part of the process that's putting the scans into the format that Autodesk products need for a point cloud, the RCP format. So this process will take just a little while, so once again we're going to fast forward to near the end of this process. Now we're at the end of indexing and the whole process is just over 43 minutes. Now that we've done all the scanning, transferring, processing, and registration, we have a completed point cloud that we can use. Now before we bring it into another application, I want to take a look at this point cloud a little bit now in recap. So the first thing I'm going to do is just zoom in. Now as I zoom in, you kind of see the graininess of it. This is the actual point cloud. So these are the dots that it actually captured. And you can see there are tons and tons of dots that it captured. These have been colorized by the photography. Now, in addition to seeing the scan itself, in recap we also have the ability to see the scan and the photographic information together. Now the bubbles that you're seeing out there are different scan positions. So if I were to pan around here, these are the different scan positions that I captured. And I'm going to go to that combination view of the photography and the points. Now up here in the upper right corner we have a map of our scans. And I started with a scan, went around the corner here, and then this scan right here is in the middle of a doorway, and this is in that final room right there. So that was the process of scans that I used. Now I'm going to collapse this to give me a little more room, and then I'm going to move around so I'm in a position to see these walls pretty well. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is do some measurements. Now, the first type of measurement that I'm going to do is going to be a surface measurement. So in other words, I'm going to go from a surface to another surface. Now, I'm going to take another measurement a little bit further down the wall. And as you can see, that one came out real accurate. So, it wouldn't be surprised if it were off just a little bit because of maybe the walls aren't completely straight, and or remember there's that accuracy of 1/4 of an inch it could be off. Now this time I'm going to do a different kind of measurement. I'm going to do an ortho measurement. So I'm going to pick a point on the bottom of that duct, and then I'm going to go down to the floor. So now I've got a measurement of how high the bottom of that duct is. Now this is a much smaller duct, and it should be much higher than that duct. So let's take a look at this, and there you are. Yes, they're about 6 inches apart. So we have some wonderful measurement capabilities in Recap Pro to look for any kind of measurement that we want. And we can just move around in our scans by going to a different bubble. And now I'm going to be in this bubble. And you can continue to move around your scans, and notice it keeps my dimensions that I placed out there. So Recap Pro is a wonderful tool for that, but the main reason we're here is to create that point cloud so I can bring it into another application. So that's what we're going to do next. So now we're over in Revit, and we're going to briefly take a look at the point cloud in Revit. So I'm going to begin a new project. And I'm going to go to the Insert tab of the ribbon and to the Point Cloud command. Now we're going to choose that print room remodel that we've been working on this whole time and go Open. Now it brought in the point cloud, but in this view I really don't see too much. Now if I were to go to my 3D view, I'm going to see my whole point cloud. But the reason we're not seeing what we want to see in this mechanical view is that the elevation of the point cloud is not where we want it to be. So we need to move this up to the correct place in 3D. So I'm going to select the point cloud itself. It's an object. And I'm going to go to Move, select a point on there, and go up to my level line. So now I've moved it in the correct location in 3D. Okay? And actually, I think I probably got a point a little too low. So let me go move again and move it from here to there. Now I think I've got it lined up a little bit better. So let's go back to our floor plan view. And now we see our point cloud. Now, the reason I wanted to get the bottom lined up as closely as I could is because I wanted you to be able to see that now we're seeing the floor as well as the rest of this point cloud. So what I want to do now is control my view range. So I'm going to go into my view range command, and I'm going to bring the bottom up 1 foot, so I'm not going to see the last foot of this view. And that should take out basically my floor, so I have a lot cleaner look at my point cloud. Now, I don't like the orientation of it, so let's get it oriented a little bit better. So I'm going to select it and go over here to my rotate command. Let's move my rotation point on the wall somewhere. And let's rotate it. So now it's squared up with my view. Now there are lots and lots of things you can do with the point cloud. The obvious thing is to trace over your walls here. Now I'm going to show you by cutting sections through here what a robust set of data that we really have. So we're going to create a section here. So I'm going to go to my View tab, to my Section command, and I'm going to create a section through here. I'm not going to make it real deep, so that looks good to me. So let's take a look at what we get. And I have a very good section that's showing me the route of this ductwork in my point cloud. So robust information available to us. Now let's go back to our floor plan and let's do a section in the opposite direction. Let's do a section, say, through here. And bring it back a little bit. And now I have a section that lets me see the structural materials and the slope of my roof. So you can get an amazing amount of information in here. Lots of things you can do with it once you get it in Revit. At some point in time in the future, we'll be doing another 4-Minute Friday, and we'll go a little bit deeper into some of the editing capabilities with a point cloud in Revit. Now, to summarize what we've done today, I tried to create a realistic scenario where we went through 7 scans. You saw how long it took to make each scan, to put those scans together, to transfer them from the iPad Pro to the PC, where further processing and indexing took place, to a complete point cloud ready to use in your application. Now this whole process took about 43 minutes, just a little over 43 minutes. Now we were scanning in medium mode with no HDR, and it took just over 4 minutes for a scan. If we were to turn HDR in addition, that would add another 2.5 minutes to the scan. If we went to high resolution mode, that would add another 8.5 minutes to the scan. So we're looking anywhere from just over 4 minutes to just over 15 minutes for a scan. And which of those you need depends on the lighting situation for HDR, and also depends on the kind of data that you need and what you're trying to achieve with the point cloud. Now earlier I had described the Leica BLK as a revolutionary device, not only because of its size and weight, but also because of its price. Instead of paying in excess of $50,000, the base package for the BLK360 is $18,500. This includes the scanner and a full year subscription to Recap Pro. Now there are other accessories that you may want to purchase in addition to that, such as tripods, extra batteries, cases, but that's the starting point for the BLK, $18,500. I hope this webinar has been informative. Thank you for watching this webinar. If you'd like some more information on this topic, please feel free to contact your sales rep, and we'll be happy to discuss your particular situation. If you would like to later look at a recording of this webinar or any of our 4-Minute Fridays, you can look for us at tpm.com or on YouTube and subscribe to our TPM Solutions channel. Once again, thank you for watching.